All right, we're live.
Awesome. Sweet.
Hello. I'm Rashid. He's David. This is the Mannerists podcast. We will be talking about art history and as it relates to our own art practice. We are both practitioners, and we do it in our spare time. It's not our main occupation, but we have been observing these sort of complex lessons as we sort of go into these master drawings that we are studying. And we thought we should sort of start this conversation outlet where we can discuss some of the things that we see with pictorial examples. So I'll just start the
Yeah.
introduction myself. I've been just drawing for over 8 years now. Uh, it's I've never done it professionally. I do professional graphic design at the moment, but I have been drawing copies for a very long time, and that's where my experiences come from. Uh, let's go
Mm.
into David now.
Yeah. So thanks, Rashid. Yeah. So as Rashid said, my name is David. I'm from Ireland. I've been drawing. Well, I don't know how many years exactly, but I started like as a young kid drawing, and then I kind of stopped at around age 15, and then I restarted again when I was about 22, and I'm 26 now. So yeah, there's a few years anyway, and I suppose my main forte at the moment is pen and ink. So I
Exactly the
really
same as me.
you're the same, right?
Yeah,
We
definitely.
I
We are
think
both ink purists.
that's it in our truest form.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just for me, cross hatching is what I tend to focus on most of the time. I do love graphite, and I'm kind of starting into oil painting. But yeah, I'm always drawn to pen and ink. How about you,
Yeah.
Rashid? Sorry, what age did you like get into cross hatching and pen and ink and stuff?
So I had like a academic teacher during my
Mm,
like 15, and I just drew the same way academic people drew nowadays. Sort of
mm,
academicism. It's very interesting. Academicism sort of started out as just something where people piled on a bunch of Leonardo's description of how you should draw. They just sort of systematized that, and then it
mm.
later became this thing where,
Okay.
oh, we're just gonna teach everybody how to draw, so we must make it in the simplest manner possible. So
Mm,
academic drawing, as I learned it during my first few years, it was just you block out the figures like it's a sort of like a chiseled sculpture, and
got it.
after you block them out for like 20 minutes, you then start adding in the details for like 6 hours, and by the end of
Okay.
like seventh hour, you have a relatively finished drawing, unless you're
Right.
drawing multiple figures, in which case you go like 27 hours for with one drawing. So I
Okay.
went like that for like 2 years. Then I was trying to like sort of I wanted to try out for art universities.
Mm,
Uh, but then like the teachers for those, they were like, you have to make a drawing in 20 minutes. And that
okay.
was fascinating. Just a second. I think my sort
Mm,
of
no worries.
my my camera is sort of going off and into focus, which is
Yeah,
something it didn't
it
do.
is a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
it didn't do that during
playing
the
up on us.
just a sec. I think it's sort of going.
Sometimes it auto corrects itself, so
Oh,
we
there it is.
might be okay.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
you're looking good now.
Uh,
You're all good.
yeah, it looks good on my part. So, what I got into this 20 minutes, like you have to finish a drawing in 20 minutes,
Mm,
sort of lane. And then that was fascinating because then like I was strictly just using a pencil, like a 2B pencil. But now I was using like charcoal and I was using like ink. And
mm,
I saw that with these new mediums, like
Mm.
a very fastly gestural kind of drawings were possible, and
Right.
you can actually go into a lot more detail even with those mediums,
Right.
just just having to see the figure very fast.
Right.
So yeah, I got into that, and as I got through college, uh, I was sort of making these original works during college, just
Mm.
drawings of every kind of like style. I never stuck to one.
Right.
Just I would make like these quick animations with like very simple pastels, and I would go into like watercolors and other kind of these things. But like
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end of my college years, I got into like really studying Parmigianino,
Mm.
the artist called Parmigianino, and
Right.
I fell in love with the way he sort of handled ink. Like I was
Mm.
sort of I
Is
was
he very like expressive, or what? Why were you drawn to him in the first
he
place?
was both expressive,
Mm.
graceful, and dynamic in his execution. Uh,
Mm.
so that was like at that time I was also like sort of experimenting with using a goose quill, which
Right.
is a quill pen you craft out of a feather. You sort of
Mm-hmm.
get a Zacto knife, cut out the feather in the shape of a pen, and you
Right.
use that the same way Old Master used it. And at first, I was like, "Oh, this is just something I'm sort of like looking into as a side thing where I can like show people, oh, I can use a medium the same way as a Renaissance master."
Mm.
And like it was sort of a side gig. My actual gig was my watercolors and my animations. I was sort of using
Okay.
that as a side gig. But like
Mm.
after copying Parmigianino and like actually feeling the way he feels forms, I was like, I need to like push this to the absolute limits.
Right. Right.
So I'll show a few of my works later on,
Awesome.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
for now, let's move into David, your practice and what you have been going into. You said like you started picking it up. When was that? Like last year,
Um.
2 years ago?
So,
Yeah, 2 years ago, right?
as in like in regards to pen, or just all
Yeah.
mediums?
Well, you said that you took it up until the age
Mm.
15, and now you just retook it up
Right.
again.
Right. So, just to kind of go back on that part. So when I was younger, you're drawing like every other kid does, just like
Yeah.
cartoon figures, kind of looking at comic books. And there was one book in particular, I don't know if you know it, but it's called The Edge Chronicles. But the illustrations in that are brilliant. It's basically a
Hmm.
fantasy book for kids. But I really enjoyed it. Was just black and white images, very simple, kind of expressive characters, that kind of thing. So I suppose that was the underlying uh, interest that I had for what I'd be doing, years down the line. But
Yeah.
then when I went to secondary school, which would be, I think you'd call it high school, probably. Um, so in Ireland, and from the ages 12 to 15, I took art, but in that it was very much just orientated around projects, and just you'd experiment with one medium, or say like clay for 1 week. The next week you're doing a painting. The next week you're doing lino cuts. It was all scattered. So I basically lost all of my kind of desire to keep drawing, to produce art, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
High school art classes will do that to you.
I tell you, man, it's crazy. It just like it
Oh my
sucked
god.
all
Did they
the
do
love I
like
had
this
for.
grid thing that's like super annoying? They have like a
Yeah.
grid and they make
Oh
you like
man,
copy it like you're some sort of
it's so
like
funny,
printmaker.
right? That was for us, like, or I probably like most people in my class as well. That was our first time ever like receiving drawing instruction, but that was the only method they taught us was the grid one. It was nothing about like, oh, you can measure this point and this point and whatever. It was just like
Yeah.
divide up your picture and then copy each box.
And
So
that's what all old masters did. They just divided up the picture.
yeah,
They
exactly.
had
There,
like
there's no like. there was no real structural approaches to how to look at an image and then break it down and draw what you see, kind of thing. There was none of that. It was
Yeah.
very much just copy a photo. Yeah, but yeah. Then I started maybe 2 or 3 years ago, getting back into drawing properly, and yeah, it was people like Michelangelo, Albrecht Dürer. There's a guy, Hendrik Goltzius. He's like a printmaker. He's from
Yeah,
Germany, I
I
think.
know.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, the
But
Hercules print. That's by him,
yeah,
right? That's
right.
that's one of the most beautiful prints ever.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So those three uh, just kind of motivated me to still do graphite drawings, but just not just focus on those, using a pen and creating like density as well
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
just hatching lines. It just fascinated me.
Yeah, if you
So
want to
yeah,
like study hatching, you have to go
mm,
into these engravings where like it goes into extreme lengths, and it's fascinating.
right. You have to, and it's
Yeah,
just like even analyzing how they are creating shadow. It's it's amazing. It's amazing, and I
yeah.
feel
Nobody
like
does that these days. Like nobody,
right,
literally.
like
Like it's just usually just abbreviated to
mm,
an insane amount. Like they do not go into every single crevice like these
yeah,
guys do and
right.
just feel the forms. At most, they just want to show where it goes. Like the
The
hatching
essence
is
of it.
just there. Yeah,
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 I feel like yeah, that's completely true. Like I feel like now it's you get the vague idea
Mhm.
through like what they want to represent. But as you said, yeah, they don't analyze everything to the finest detail, and I suppose that kind of just impressed me as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
So let's actually, as you know, as you're talking,
Sorry, I was
let's
probably
go
talking
into
too long
your
there. Yeah.
work. No, no, it's fine. We're actually on
Cool.
still on schedule. Let's go
Awesome.
into your work, and then I have my Instagram open on another window because I didn't have time to like make my other stuff.
No
Hold
worries.
on, stop screen. Okay, so share
We'll
screen
let you.
again, and let's go into David's sort of last 2 years process.
Mm.
Share. Okay, so this is David's piece.
Oh yes.
Uh, you have
I
another
kind of
one, but
cringed a little
let's
bit.
go into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting, this piece.
So
So you used what kind
yeah.
of pen here?
So in the first one, the July 2019, that was just your standard like red ballpoint pen. As
Yeah.
far as I remember, whereas the one to the right, I'm pretty sure I used what they're called, Signo. Sorry, I can't remember the first name. 1 second now. I've got one here.
No problem.
It's basically like a finer tip, so it's like a 0.28.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, it's a uniball Signo.
It's a
Um,
ballpoint pen for both of them.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Huh. I
Um,
thought like it might have been like a very thin drawing pen.
mm,
That's very interesting. You managed to
mm,
get this much. Although I almost never use ballpoint pens. But usually
right.
when I see ballpoint pen drawings, they look more like sort of these crappy sketches on Photoshop because they don't use it like you use it. You
Right.
use it like you're doing an engraving. Most of the time, people
Yeah.
use them to sketch in a wildly manner.
Right.
So that
Right.
makes it look a bit cheap. But with you, I thought like, oh, that might have been drawing pens. But
Mm,
yeah, in 1 year you got like the features, you got
mm,
the face looking all right, you got the
mm,
tones looking more like shadows rather than just paint on their
right.
bodies.
Mm.
Yeah,
And for me, the sorry to
yeah,
interrupt
go
there,
ahead.
but
Go,
the
go. You don't interrupting. It's your work. Go ahead.
okay, cool, cool. But yeah, so I kind of think from July 2019 to even like December 2019, I didn't really practice that much in cross hatching or like using pen at all.
Hmm.
But what I basically did for like the first like 6 months of 2020 was just become more familiar with using the pen.
Hmm.
And then I remember I'd go to work, and then I'd come back from work, and I'd literally just like draw for 2 hours, just trying to perfect every line. And so I think for me, most of my progress came over the space of like, I don't know, 2 months or something. But it was just like I was just dedicated to improving um, drawing in general, but in particular, yeah, cross hatching and just trying to
Yeah,
push it, how kind of see how far I could get and
that's very
how
interesting.
much.
I never heard of
Mm,
like someone just practicing their lines
mm,
and actually making progress.
right.
Like, most of the time I see like
Really?
people just practicing drawing and then they make progress with
Mm,
their work in general. But it's the first time
right.
I'm hearing like, because I look at these lines, like the first
Mm,
picture, I'll just sort of make it full screen.
yeah, cool.
So the
I
first
cr-
picture,
I cringe looking at this first picture. It's so bad.
uh, yeah, so like you got lines that are sort of like going
Mm,
into each other, and like in the
mm,
second one you have like these incredibly straight lines like all over.
yeah,
And
right.
like your work right now is even more straighter than this. Like
Yeah.
there are still some irregularities from now and then, like, but as far as like practicing line goes, you really pushed it to quite a new level, especially with
Right.
your newer stuff,
Mm,
which will bring us to the second piece, which is this.
yeah.
This is more like recent, right? This is more recent.
Yeah, that's probably February or March this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
And yeah, the lines are better. The shadows really look three dimensional almost.
right.
I don't know, like this is a drawing you made out of your head, right?
So, as far as I remember, the head and like the hand positions was made up, I think, but the and the yeah, I think the upper portion as well, like the upper torso and stuff, was out of my
Hmm.
head. But the bottom half, I definitely use a reference. I
I
can't
see.
remember. It was a painting anyway. I can't
Oh, it
remember
might have
who
been
it
a
was.
northern painting. Those have great like fabric
Right.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So I
otherwise,
basically.
like the
Mm,
delineations are great.
mm, and I found that was a great way to like improve at like line quality was
Hmm.
taking a painting and then trying to recreate that using just pen, so creating
Yeah,
that illusion of texture using a pen. It's
yeah, exactly.
it's difficult to do, but it's also quite rewarding, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
And this is what informs your work today, and
yeah.
we're gonna discuss some of other like masters that you like later. But yeah, we'll go in from David. Any final thoughts on what you're doing?
Final thoughts on this piece, is it? um
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I kind of did was try to keep so his left side,
Hmm.
the lower part, his legs, say that left side. I
Oh yeah,
tried to keep that more in shade,
lighter.
and
Yeah, yeah, I see. Oh,
just like,
yeah, I get it.
sorry, yeah, his left side. Just tried to create that depth of
Hmm.
shadow, and then on the other side, I kept it very light. Like there's some parts, the right side, there's barely any lines at all. It's
Hmm.
just the contour lines that are
Yeah,
kind
I
of
see. Like there's
sculpting the
a
form.
quite a difference. Therefore,
Mm,
they're different, sort of, they're different values, which is great
right,
because sometimes people forget about that, and you have almost the same cloth sort of going into each other, which never looks
right,
nice.
right, right.
Yeah, we'll look into more of your
Cool.
work later on as we go about this podcast. But as for
Awesome.
now, let's just get back to our usual setting and just.
Yeah.
I have my Instagram open. I have some of my work. I'll just show a few of them, and it's very it's convenient that I also have this timeline where I can just go into my early stuff too.
Mm,
All right, let's do this. Share screen, window, and
awesome.
share.
Let's have a look.
Alrighty. So just a sec. Still learning these folks.
Cool.
So
No, you're doing well, man. You're doing well.
all right, great. So as you can see, like from the beginning, I'm sort of doing almost
Mm,
everything. This is just like I said. This was I went to
wow.
college in New York, and this was like the Times Square, and I went there, and I was like painting it with this ink brush that's like huge. This is an
Mm.
18 by 24 painting. I think it might be bigger,
Oh, wow.
but like I was doing all these things, and like this is a Jacob Jordan's copy of like watercolor work, and it's over chalk. Uh,
Oh, over
and this is another
chalk.
Times
Interesting.
Square. Yeah, like
Mm.
hold on. Yeah, if I was historically accurate, it would be under chalk, and the chalk would be on top. But I didn't
Okay.
have that much sense at the time, so I just thought you just drew the picture then colored it. It's so weird.
All
Anyhow,
right.
uh, so
You were
this
a
is then
novice. It's okay.
yeah, this is a Times Square drawing again. I keep doing this like back then, but like I'll
That's
tell you,
awesome, though. I
doing
like that.
like Times Square ink drawings that are like that, it really fills you up with confidence when you're drawing, because like
Right.
you're not afraid to draw in front of like thousands of people, just with your black ink
Oh,
that's in a
so
cup,
you,
because
so,
you have to like you
wow.
have this brush that's like bigger than your phone, like thicker than
Mm,
your phone, this brush, and you have it
right.
like on your thing, and you're painting it with that, like
Okay. I thought you
18 by
had
20.
like, sorry, I thought you'd like taken a photo and then gone home and then like drew it from,
No, I
you know,
brought a mini
using the photo as
portable
reference.
easel
No
that's like
way.
20 bucks, and it's
Man,
like
that's
shakes
hardcore.
like crazy. Oh
Really?
my
So
god.
wait, so at that time, like there was just people like all around you, and like,
Yeah.
yeah, were they like asking you,
Yeah, I
like,
thought
what are
like
you doing, and all
actually
like that?
people in the Times Square, I don't think they ever like uh went that social with me. When
Okay.
I also did like drawings at cafes too, and sometimes people would talk to
Mm,
me then. But like I was trying to like build up my hand and eye out coordination
mm,
with all this other stuff. Anyhow, so like I had this weird thing where I just did everything, and look
right.
at the first like piece. I did a few Parmigianino copies, and I didn't even like
Interesting.
bother with like mentioning it was like a copy of Parmigianino. At the time, I didn't care that much for Parmigianino. It just happened to be I was making these old master copies, and it just
Okay.
happened to be the first artist that whose copies I posted on Instagram, which is
Right.
very interesting to me because at that time I wouldn't even remember Parmigianino's name.
Gotcha.
I had to like copy it from the book because it was such a
Mm,
complicated name too. But yeah,
okay.
it's very interesting that I had this interest in this artist from the very beginning.
Right, and it's come
And
full circle now. Like
yeah,
you're,
and I think like
yeah.
I can even like pinpoint. So I do all these drawings. I'm sort of this is the time where I'm first beginning to experiment with quill pen, which is made from a feather. As you can
Hmm.
see, I'm sort of trying out different inks.
I like. Can you
And
go back into
yeah,
that
go
one?
ahead.
Sorry. I
This
like
is
the
Columbia
tree.
University.
Okay, the final image, the tree, and that looks really
Yeah.
cool. I
Oh,
really like
thanks.
the. Yeah, that's nice.
I think I was
That's really
looking a
well
lot
done. I
at
like that.
like Van Gogh drawings where he also used like a pens he made.
Okay,
Yeah, but I wasn't even
that's
using
something
like.
I need to start doing.
So I actually, this is a very interesting story. So this is the first time I started to like copy Parmigianino's ink drawings, and this was the first copy I did. And like
Okay.
as you can see at the first, it's like nothing, and it goes from like weird shapes too, and this is a weird shape too. And here you start seeing like a guy that's holding something in his hand, and then
Yeah.
you go from all the way here. Like I was drawing this piece. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse?
Yes. It's my screen at the moment's a little bit small, but I can make out the figures. Yeah.
like
Okay.
my mouse
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
circling around. Okay, cool. Otherwise, it would be very weird. Anyhow, so I was drawing this last piece, and I just fell in love with the way like this line is sort of following up by this line is following up by this shadow, and this shadow is followed up by this line here on his clothes, and it just sort of goes through this ensemble. And this is just my
Mm,
copy, but I could see it in my copy, and it very much fascinated me. And I had
yeah.
a class that day, like outdoors class, and I wouldn't shut up about it like while I was talking to everybody. And we did a lot of walking in that class because it was sort of like a New York sightseeing class almost.
Okay.
But that night, like I couldn't like, and this was from the first drawings as well. It's another page I was working on. So
They
that
look
night I
cool. Yeah.
couldn't like sleep thinking about this. So I actually like I can't sleep. Let me just do some Parmigiano drawings. And like this
Mm.
entire post I did that night. Like I think I started out with this copy.
That wow. That's all one night.
Yeah, like this copy
You did not
again, like
sleep, huh? You did not
uh,
sleep. Wow.
and this with red pencil, and this with the ink,
Ink
and
again.
like this
So
with the
cool.
red pencil again.
Yeah, I
And
like them.
this, I think this was first, and the other thing you saw was the second because
Mm.
I had more experience. And
Okay.
then this, yeah, with this, like
And now
I
you.
did it
Sorry.
and didn't sleep. Yeah, I didn't sleep
Mm-mm.
that night. But yeah, that was where I was like just become obsessive with this ink, using ink.
Mm.
And I also did some Rembrandt copies, sort of experiment with Rembrandt, copying Rembrandt because I
Awesome.
like these drawings too.
And are
Um,
you, sorry, are you putting down like your initial marks with like pencil or something to guide you and then putting down
yeah,
pen? Or how do you kind of work?
so it's
I'm
interesting.
interested to see for those.
As I started like copying Parmigianino, I actually, so there's no underlying drawings here. I start drawing
Mm.
like this, and then I add
Okay.
the washes, and I've been doing that for as long as I've been working with ink because I thought like I can't capture the essence of Parmigianino if I don't do the whole drawing with ink. Even though there are
Right.
examples
Hmm.
of Parmigianino drawings where he started out with a chalk and then went with an ink, but
Right.
he does do drawings purely in ink, and I like those, and I try to emulate that sometimes,
Right.
and so I did more
They're really
copies,
good.
and like I started
Right.
making original works with like this weird thing. Don't think too
Is
much
that
about
a,
it.
is, yeah, I was gonna say like, what is that guy doing?
Yeah, like just
And I, if I, is that a
some more
donkey with
Rembrandt
like three
copies.
eyes? It's crazy.
Yeah, forget about it. But I have more logical original works like this one. This is like a whole video, uh, like an animation from I did.
Yeah.
So like all of these different screenshots. But yeah, I had this is a zoo watercolor I did. I'm still using ink as you can see, like around the
Yeah.
figures, but I'm also like mixing it up with watercolor. But yeah, I got like obsessed with Parmigianino. You see like Parmigianino copies everywhere. Like here,
Right.
you actually commented on this. Thanks. There you are.
There you go.
So
I was a fan from day one.
yeah, yeah, you definitely didn't put that last week. Anyhow, so
No,
like,
no, 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 no.
oh
No.
yeah, I started using some of it like in my nature drawings. I started making like these. This is I think Central Park.
Mm, that's
This
awesome, man. Yeah.
is This is Cooper Triangle. Actually, Cooper
That's so
Union
good.
liked this drawing. They put a like. So
Really?
yeah,
Hell yeah. Nice. And it's great, like I think
uh,
being out in nature and parks and stuff, like you practice so many different elements of drawing, like your perspective, your um forms. It's all
yeah,
there in front of
definitely.
you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and you can actually. I was doing like Karachi copies of landscapes and Parmigianino copies of landscapes and like Van Dyke copies of landscapes alongside it. So I was trying to
Mm,
put the things I learned into the piece. This is a Bryant Park drawing. Yeah, Bryant Park in New York, and
Okay.
I think I was lucky enough. Yeah, Bryant Park liked it. So
No way.
yeah,
You're like famous.
it's got 43 likes. So let's not get ahead
Hell
of
yeah.
ourselves.
You'll be getting commissions like next week from
This is
from
another
them.
Bryant Park drawing where I'm just sort of doing. This is the first time I started
Awesome.
using Iron Gall. This is interesting. Iron Gall ink, which is
Yeah.
right now the only thing I'm using. But at the time, like Iron Gall is a very corrosive ink. It'll screw up your pen.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, that's what I was afraid of using it for a while because I thought like I'll screw up my pen. But I learned
Mm.
that if as long as you like sort of wipe it off after you use it, it won't like you can just wash it off with water. It
Right.
won't screw your drawing implements all that much, and it's a very
Right.
powerful drawing implement by all means
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because it does not mix with water as well, which
Okay.
lets you do like washes over it. And
Right.
yeah, I'll go into more detail on Iron Gall later. This is just
So it's quite a strong kind of medium to use then. I've
yeah,
never used it, so I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes.
yep. And like this was the last like original drawing I did for like my channel. It was 2020, uh,
Mm.
yeah, early 2020, and this is
Japanese
another place.
style?
No, this is an original piece. It's a place called Titus Tunnels. It's a tourist attraction. I
Mm.
did like the drawing back there, but then I went home and did the colors back at home.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, so I did that, and then I had a job, and like I just sort of focused on my job. But lately, got into the studying the masters channel,
Right.
and if you want to know about it, it's a channel where you sort of every week you do a different type of copy. Like we think, oh, let's copy this drawing by Tiepolo. So a bunch of people get together and they copy the drawing, and we showcase the copies. And this is mine,
Yeah.
and this is another lady's. So I got into this channel quite a lot, and like the first time they copy Parmigianino here is the time where I joined up. Sorta, it was my idea.
You
uh,
influenced them, yeah.
yep, because this drawing is not available in like internet. I had to
Mm.
take it from a book I had on Parmigianino, and this is my copy.
Oh no
This is the
way.
first, but like I got back into drawing with this channel, and I'm very grateful for it. And this is where
Right.
we met too. Like this is where I saw
Mm.
your stuff.
Mm. And
You
I
post here as well, yeah.
yeah, I know for like the studying the masters, I don't participate as much as I'd like to, but I normally try to comment on people's drawings like every week if I can. So yeah, hopefully I'll try to be more active in the future.
Yeah, I mean,
But
at least with the learning from the masters, which is what we're going to talk about a little later. But yeah,
mm,
I think we covered me and you quite well.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's a nice little introduction, and I
yep.
suppose just like reference
Let me close
points
this
for
up.
people that are watching.
Yep. So
Yeah,
now we've gotten past 30-minute point, which is not what we planned,
we're
but whatever. So let's go into from this the
mm,
first sort of philosophy and this because we mentioned we look into these old masters and we take these lessons from them, but what kind of
mm,
lessons we're taking them
right,
sort of differs in sort of how complicated they are and how much they clash with our contemporary understanding. And the
mm,
first thing that sort of spoke to us was the contemporary understanding of failure as it relates to arts.
right.
You know, as long as
Yeah,
you're not a downer, for
mm,
instance, as long as you're not a downer, your idea of failure in arts tends to be that, oh, it's just a normal thing at first. You fail and fail and fail, but
right.
then you start succeeding, and then it's all like coast. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah, you're
coastal.
coasting it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's all
coasted.
like
Like
easy. Yeah.
yeah, it's all easy. And to an extent, this is true for some modern
Mm,
practices because they are sort of way too systematic for you to
Mm-hmm.
fail at later stages. And we're going to talk about that as it relates to old masters drawings.
Mm.
But yeah, we kind of started seeing these uh, sort of
Kind of like,
outliers. Yeah,
yeah.
outliers with the masters, and we're going to talk
Mm.
about them for this episode. And I think we should move the learning from the master stuff to the next episode, just because we sort of talked too
Mm.
much about our own work.
Cool.
And
Yeah. We've
yeah,
got,
so we can
we've
still
plenty
end
of
at the same
episodes
time.
coming, so we'll have
Yep.
plenty of material. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about this philosophy of failure first. So,
Right.
what are your contemporary understandings of failure, David, as you understand it? Let's talk about them, and then we'll go into the failure understanding of the old masters.
Okay. So, like, you mean like nowadays, like
Yeah,
the
nowadays, because you
mm,
mentioned you also like saw a bunch of podcasts about this
right.
and like how people view failure. So,
Right, yeah. I feel like nowadays, because we've got like things like social media, we have all these distractions that I feel like people try to achieve like a finished product, a polished gem straight away. Like they're
yeah.
not willing to put in the groundwork like needed basically to
Yeah, they're
achieve
following those
the
tutorials
results.
where you're guaranteed to make a great drawing.
Right?
That's how you become a master. You draw
And
the same way
right.
exactly.
And I get it. I get it. Like you could, in a sense, okay, you might have mastered that drawing, but you haven't mastered drawing as a whole, you know? So I think you really have to, like we talked about before, is like being okay with trying out new things, like new techniques, working with different mediums if you have to understand the dynamics of drawing itself, rather than
Exactly.
always following a structure of, okay, we're going to start with like a square, then we're going to start with another square, and then you have your final piece. I think there
Yep.
needs to be a bit of, interpretation. And I think you agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the
Mm,
interpretation and understanding how to draw in a sense.
right.
Now let's put this in an extremely contemporary setting, such as comic book art, which
Right.
is something I actually like saw while I was in college, where basically there's a formula, and the formula is repeated at nauseum almost. At sometimes, you see like
Okay.
characters with the same faces everywhere, characters with
Mm,
like the same kind
seen
of
that.
bedroom, just with the different colors. And there is a lot of financial reasons for it. You don't have time to like invest in a lot of artists, like just working very long times at different projects.
Mm,
But you do see the effects of like what so this extremely academic notion of drawing can
mm,
bring, because they understand failure is an important part, but the way they view failure is different than how artistic like minds viewed failure back in the day, which is where we go into Parmigianino here,
mm-hmm.
where so there's this, like I said, there's this idea that you fail at first and then you are coasted, you understand everything, and you can draw as well as possible.
Right.
But if you look into the old masters' work, and actually like not just from the books, the books, they put the best drawings there and they omit all
Right.
the bad stuff. But if you
Right.
go into museums and they just write their master's name and just look at all of their drawings, well, you see drawings like this. Hold on, let me open it. I just
Okay, let's have
realized
a
I didn't
look.
have the share screen
No worries. No worries.
window. And okay, this is a little
Let's have a
graphic. I hope
look.
YouTube won't. So this is Anibare Karaji. This guy basically invented academic art, because they had the first academy in art. Okay,
Mm,
their academy was not like anything we see today. Like today we have um, today basically we have these structures, like they have very set rules and such. In his day, he was mostly just bringing a group of artists together and showcasing all of these master techniques that he and his like cousins unearthed
right.
almost. And they had like a
Okay.
dynamic studio, but their studio was so large you could call it an academy. And if you look at
Gotcha.
like 1600s, Karaji influenced paintings are everywhere because their influence was so huge because of their large academy set in Bologna, I think. But so this is Anibale Karaji, and you see like he's just playing around. He's just there's a putty that's like shitting on top of some structure. There is a
Right.
guy that's like almost bizarrely featured, and he's playing
Right.
around with different motives, different types of drawing, and he's having fun for the most part.
Right.
This is I don't think this is a strictly design, but you
I
see
don't
that
think it's a
he's willing
serious
to like
either. Mm,
yeah, and you see like
you
he's
know?
willing to make weird nonsensical drawings, like even the structure here makes no sense,
Yeah.
but he
Right.
really wants to explore different outlets. We're going into more serious drawings now, I think. Hopefully, this is another piece by Anibale Karachi.
Oh
He's
wow, it's just
also like,
profiles.
yeah, it's a
Like
bunch of caricatures
hundreds and
almost.
hundreds.
You know,
Yeah.
they say
It's
like he might have invented caricature. That's interesting. That might
yeah.
actually be true because he was so prolific. But yeah,
Mm,
you see the first notions of that here. But what I want to go into is the serious works. He's just sort of playing around with those. But the serious works, he still doesn't really care about making a perfect drawing because
right.
he understands that the process requires uh, quite a bit of just experimentations where you're not guaranteed to make something legible.
Mm,
Um, and this is one of his later works. This is not at all like an early work by him. And you see, like, he's sort of playing around with different positions of the hand. He's redrawing the positions of
mm.
the hand, he's redrawing the positions of the face. He's playing around with, like, should I put the structure here? Maybe you shouldn't. Who knows?
Mm.
So, like, he's sort of playing around with that. And okay, so that's what Anibale Karachi does. But the person I want to talk about the most is Parmigianino, which is,
Mm.
I'm just going to show a bunch of drawings. Like, look at this torso. Like, does it make any sense to you? Like, the way
I
that
know,
it's
right?
shaded? Yeah, like it's a bunch of circles almost. Just,
Yeah.
and he's sort
It's
of
like
playing around with
circles
light
kind
here.
of
But
just
yeah,
put on top of each other, really. Um,
yeah,
even the now that could be just my eye, but his belly, it's almost like it's in the wrong place. It's like too far down or something. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
that's just me.
So I think this is his midlife work, but this is his
Okay.
late work. Like this is the late stuff he's doing. If you just look at these drawings, you think like Parmigianino, he didn't know how to draw. Like what could this guy draw? Like this is all
Mm,
weird. Who is this guy supposed to be? Like why is he drawn that way? Why is there like another whole drawing here that's sort of blotted
mm,
out by all these washes? You know,
right.
you can sort of guess that there's a lady here, there's a baby there, there's another
Yeah,
putty
I
here.
mean, you're given kind of like the vague outline of it, and you can kind of fill in the blanks. But he really
Yeah,
is
but
like
there's like, is there a
experimenting.
donkey here? For God's sake! Like you look at these drawings, and like there are so many. There are so many where he's just sort of like messing around. Sometimes something coherent sort of comes out, but a lot of the
Mm,
times he is just going bonkers on the paper.
right. And do you
Uh,
reckon it's all like, is he drawing all from imagination in these, or do you think he's using any reference points? What
I
do you think?
think he is experimenting with different ways of depicting something pictorially. Because, as you know, these
Mm,
Renaissance masters, they not only show the idealized version of what they saw, but also they really push the envelope when it comes to like depicting all sorts of different objects, such as hair, for instance. The hair in
mm,
Renaissance paintings, especially, they have all these incredibly loose, curly appearances where
right.
they're almost like perfect sculptures, almost. But
Right.
like
It's
they
like you
get
can see
these,
every hair almost. Mm,
yeah, they get all of these incredibly graceful motives by they just experimenting with everything almost. And this is what
mm,
Parmigianino is sort of doing here, in my opinion. And like he does this with
mm,
all sorts of different things. There are a bunch of faces here, but you can't really tell what they're doing. There are
mm.
sometimes he just doesn't know how forms work. I think he didn't really know how this bird's forms work, but he had that bird and he wanted to like just study it, and
Right.
he didn't shy away from like showing his inexperience.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, like
And
nowadays
that's
you
like,
wouldn't draw
sorry.
something like if you didn't know how to draw it. Yeah, like
Right,
here, like the
exactly.
bird is very strangely done, but he's really getting to know the animal, and he later, I think, made a very good bird painting, like a painting where a bird is in, but the bird looks very
Mm.
lifelike. That's how you get to it. I mean, you just sort of
Yeah,
he's messing around with different juxtapositions of figures.
right.
He Another one where he's just drawing something, and this
And I
is the
feel
last one I
like
have. Yeah,
sorry, yeah. And I feel
yeah, go
like
ahead.
the you have to go through those like stages of little failures, like not understanding the
Yeah,
anatomy of something, uh, not knowing like which way this pose should be or whatever. It's these little things, they're building blocks, I think. And
yeah,
if you
and
keep doing it, keep studying it, then you become proficient at what you want to, whatever
yeah.
topic or subject you're looking at. Sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
and most people, when they hear like that, like, wait, I need to fail in my drawings, even when I'm a
Mm,
master, even when people
mm,
call me an old master, like, that's crazy. I want to
mm,
draw the way that, like, I get everything right the first time. So,
right.
there is some examples of people doing that, even in the Renaissance, and I'm going to show
Mm.
you one here right now. Let's do another share screen. I'm going to get faster at this, I promise.
Man, you're getting good though.
All
No,
right,
you're getting good.
there.
You'll be a
Alrighty, we
professional in
got
no
we
time.
got
Right.
Agostino Carracci, which I mentioned is the brother of Annibale Carracci I just showed. But you look at
Yeah.
his like drawing, you look at the way he draws. Like this is just a page of sketches, but the way he drew the hand, like it's very meticulous and it's perfect. Look at the way he
Yeah.
did the. It's just a sketch, but it's
Like
perfect.
he spent a long time on that. You know what I mean? And he
Yeah,
obviously
and he
wanted
knew
to
like he could do it. He knew he could do
perfect it.
it. Like he
Right.
knew he could make it perfectly because when he started, and you can
Mm,
see the same thing in the face. Like it's put very well, and even the landscape where there are some figures. Like even the way the figures are drawn, they're not drawn in any way that's like breaking from the
mm,
harmony. And like
right.
I just pulled these from like Getty Museum site. Like I didn't pull these from book, but you see like this perfection of the forms and the
Mm,
light,
I
and you
like that
think
one.
like, oh, this guy is the master. Like, what the hell were these other guys that I saw just now? Like, this guy
Mm,
knows how to draw. This guy knows how to depict the buttocks and
right.
the
But they
the muscles and all
but
the
they
stuff.
yeah. But they both did, right? Like they both could
So I
probably draw
have
on
okay. I
similar
wasn't just
levels.
gonna
Like,
leave Parmigianino and Annibale Carracci just with their worst works.
mm,
So you look at the every work of Agostino Carracci and it's perfect. But then you look at like what Agostino Carracci was in comparison to Parmigianino and Annibale Carracci, and you realize, Agostino Carracci is almost nothing compared to these other two guys, as opposed to their fame and their
mm,
finished products. And
mm,
you look at some of the pieces of Agostino, not Agostino, Annibale and Parmigianino that I just mentioned, you would see in like books.
right.
And I have another screen for that as well. And you get to see that, oh, these guys weren't just about failures. It's just that they weren't afraid of failing. This is an Annibale Carracci drawing. This is a
Mm,
red chalk drawing, and it's like beautiful. You can see the entire atmosphere on top of like the lines, and there's stumping as well, and
right.
it's gorgeous. And this is another Annibale Carracci, another study, a guy pulling on a sock. Here's the
Mm,
landscape even. And
yeah, it's very
this is
meticulous
another
though.
Annibale
These are.
Carracci. These are meticulous, and they're done in a way that's unusual, and they're very dynamic, and you can actually like,
Mm,
it's exciting because you haven't seen something
mm,
like this, especially at that time,
true.
you know. And
Uh,
this is
yeah, and I suppose
Parmigianino,
the poses are
and look at
really
the way.
like flowing. They're like very
Yeah.
expressive, and
Yep.
that's cool as well to see like sketches of that. Because
Yeah, you
sometimes
can
like
see like
You
The
don't get that
Agostino
full
drawings I
range.
saw, like you can guess that, like you can
Mm,
guess the poses in that because they're very austere poses almost. But with
mm.
these, they are really like playing around. Like this guy, I love the hatching in this. Like, look at the way these lines are curved. It's very meticulous. And like,
Yeah,
there's
is there
also
any way you
cross
can
hatching.
zoom in a bit, just so I
Let me
could see the
see.
cross hatching? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay, so oh, I'll do that. Cool. Hold on.
No worries.
So like there's cross hatching here, there's cross hatching there. This is a small
Mm,
drawing for the most part. I'm gonna show some bigger works later on, but like this guy could make the most meticulous works, the most perfect works. But
mm,
you know, look at the way he painted this. These guys, these are also small drawings. I'm gonna get to the bigger ones later, but like look
mm.
at the way that they're depicted. This is a little bigger, but this is still small. And like look at the way he described everything. It's very like gorgeous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he mixes lines with washes quite beautifully, like
Mm.
especially in this little pot that she's holding on to.
Yeah,
And
there's nice use
oh,
of
this
like
this is the
lighting
this
there.
is yeah, this is the one we made a copy of. It's just gorgeous. Look at this, like the way that the figure is depicted. But
Yeah.
like Agostino couldn't do this. It's very interesting because the Caragis, all three Caragis, actually made a fresco together. And guess what they gave Agostino
No
to
way.
paint? They gave
He's
Agostino the sculptures in the paintings. He
the
only had
background.
yeah, yeah, they only gave him the sculptures to paint because they
Right.
thought he draws so perfectly that his drawings look like they're sculptures to begin with. So you should paint the sculptures in the painting, and we'll paint the figures and all their liveliness and otherwise. But yeah, that's what they gave him.
Oh, I'd be so annoyed. I'd be like, I want
Yeah,
to
and
paint the main characters.
yeah, but you need like this life, this this exciting way of depiction, and you can't get
Mm.
that just by having everything perfectly given to you from day one. You have to fail. You have to fail even if you
Right.
are the greatest master that is alive. Even if you are the greatest draftsman. These people knew that, and that's sort of what we fail to understand in our modern era. Where we're just sort of we're a bunch of people saying, "Oh, you work hard now, but you are perfect later on," and like
Mm.
that's not what these people viewed their own works with. These are all
Mm.
Parmigianino, but you can see like
That's
the
nice.
amount of
Is
detail it
that
can go.
is that one chalk? That one there,
Yeah, that's chalk. That's chalk,
black
and
chalk.
that's the
Yeah,
last one. Yeah,
that's very nice.
yeah,
It's very
and yeah,
subtle, I think, but nice. The
yeah.
last one.
He can be subtle and bombastic, and he's playing out with everything. He's
Mm.
not afraid to make a ridiculous drawing that doesn't look like anything because he knows that it'll be more exciting in the long run.
Mm.
Agostino draws perfectly. Like everything is meticulous and perfect at every drawing almost. You know, but in the end, he doesn't get to explore, and he doesn't get to create something wholly, you know, in
Yeah.
league with nature almost,
Mm.
because nature also goes from failure to failure, and there's a whole survival of the fittest approach. But nature doesn't just create a perfect thing, and the perfect
Mm.
thing creates a perfect thing, and that just goes on. These people knew that they had to sort of um,
You
yeah, they
have to,
had to.
I
Yeah,
suppose, you
you
have
have
to
to.
embrace that failure as just
The
that's part of
process, yeah,
art. Yeah, part of the
yeah,
process. That is, I suppose, the essence of art. Like,
yeah. And you
you
can
might
maybe
have
say
this
like,
idea.
yeah,
Sorry, you might
you
have
can
an
maybe
idea
even
for
say,
something.
yeah.
Sorry,
Oh,
we're
you were
cutting in
still
on each
talking
other.
because I thought like you meant
Yeah.
you ended it, but you had the idea for something. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say like they might have the idea, or like for us, say if we have an idea for a painting, and then we start doing it, but halfway through we realize, okay, it doesn't look anything like we had initially set out for it to look like.
Mhm.
That's not a failure though. That's just part of the process. But some people
Yes,
would just say,
exactly.
okay, that's it, done. Gotta
okay, I'm
start
gonna pull
again.
up a tutorial from YouTube that shows me
Right.
exactly how to draw this, and then the
Mm.
next time I'm gonna draw it exactly the same, and then
Hmm.
I'm just gonna make the exact same super awesome drawing from the very beginning. Whereas a
Exactly.
master of like, whereas Parmigianino,
You
in
kind
that
of got to go
instance,
with
would
it.
say
Mm.
like, I was thinking of putting like a column there and like putting these figures around it, but maybe I want to just have the figures at different levels and try that out. Maybe I want to not have columns. How would I even like depict the perspective here? Should I maybe fix the perspective at a different angle and try
Mm.
it that out?
Right.
And they would just go at it like, and these, when they're masters, they obviously failed a lot less than they would when they're just beginning,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
But even when they were masters and they knew how to depict certain things perfectly, they still just played around, because who wants to
Mm.
draw the same thing? Who wants to draw the same faces over and over again? They were, you know, they were having fun with the drawings, just they wanted to enjoy the act itself too. You can almost
Mm.
understand it as that, because they really felt, they saw that you could make something wonderful, you can make something that looks perfect, but
Mm.
if you do it like without sort of a struggle, and
Right.
without like defining it, in a completely original manner, like it's
Mm.
not worth it. You're just at that point you're just a worker. You're just something. You're someone who produces the same chair over and over again, and you get
Right.
you get paid for it.
Yeah, it's almost like they start the process, and then halfway through they just, their mind goes blank and they just become a robot and they just do it, and then they've got the
Yeah.
product.
Yep.
That's not where like the glory is. And then it's like, I think people have their own like characteristics that can come through in a piece of art as well, as in
Definitely.
like they might have intended it to look a different way, but now it's totally different to they first set out as, and that's okay too. You
Yep.
know, I
Yeah.
think it just
And
makes things unique.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
And that concludes our first sort of philosophical discussion about art.
I think
And
it went well.
oh, yeah, I think it went as well as it could in our first try
Mm.
on the subject. But we made our point, and as we go forward in this podcast, we will keep bringing these subjects up, and we will keep discussing them, and hopefully,
Mm.
we'll also have these works of ours to show
Mm.
alongside them. Where
Right.
we have passed the point of talking about everything. We're at 57,
Wow,
and
nice.
yeah,
That
we're
was
at
longer than we
57.
thought. Awesome.
Yeah, we
Mm.
apparently had a lot to say.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we'll see you next. And if you're interested in actually doing copies alongside us, you can find the Studying the Masters channel, and you can see what we're copying that week, and you can sort of join in on the process. And we're actually going to start discussing Studying the Masters drawings next week. And yeah, we're hoping to see your work there as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So
That
follow
that
the page,
concludes. Yeah, that concludes
subscribe
the
to this
first
channel.
episode of the Mannerists podcast. That might be subject to change. See you next week.
Cheers. Ciao.